Cowabunga, dude. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to review the now 30-year-old motion picture by the name of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think did they call it the movie? I don't remember. I think they may have on the VHS that came out. So basically this is the live action movie with guys in costumes based off the Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird comic series which was made into the popular hit TV show. I want to say the TV show debuted in sometime in 1989. I think for whatever reason, because I wasn't aware of the comics or anything like that, or the Turtles until this TV cartoon show came out. For some reason I have this recollection of actually watching and recording the very first episode of the cartoon when it aired, if in fact it did air in 1989. So basically I guess I can't say, I'm not really a Mutant Ninja Turtles fan now by any stretch of the imagination or by any means, but as far as the animated cartoon show goes, I was probably there from day one in regards to that. And it's just really weird to think that it was only like the next year they'd make this live action movie. Of course, kid years at the time, it seemed like more like 5 years in between 89 and 90, but what I'm trying to just say before I start the review is my history with this movie goes back to before the movie existed. So I was aware of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon show, of course, and I remember in 1990 when I don't even know how I would have gotten news, probably just magazines or whatever. I don't even know how I would have got any news or found out about that this movie was a thing or that it was coming out or whatever. I remember hearing, maybe I just read in the paper in the Showtime or the movie section about a live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and I just thought that was the stupidest idea ever. How could you possibly do guys in suits to make this convincing where it was anything like the TV show, cartoon show, and I don't know if I don't remember if I saw any trailers or anything before we saw the movie, but obviously being still a year later interested to it. I wasn't a huge fan. I guess I had all the figures, maybe not all of them, but I know I had the Turtles in 1989 and Shredder, and I still know where Shredder is. I should actually have him here right now, but I don't. I don't remember if I had a Foot Soldier. I may not have. I don't think I had April or anything like that. But I know I had the four Turtles and Shredder figures that went along with the cartoon show. But anyway, what I was saying is I remember thinking, how can they possibly do a live action? What a stupid idea! Version of the Turtles. Well, then cutting to, of course, me seeing the movie in the theater. My mom took me. Thank you very much, Mom, for taking me to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. And I want to say, another thing I should say is I recently revisited this movie, having gotten the Blu-ray probably quite a while ago now, but I was just like, you know what, it's the right time. I wanted to review this movie in the 30th anniversary of its, existence and release, so I'm like, I kind of feel like watching this now. Let's watch it so I can, rewatch it so I can review it. And I always held this movie in relatively high regard ever since it came out, and rewatching it again, I still feel like there's never going to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that's going to be better than this one in any form, whether it's cartoon, computer generated, animation, or live action, or anything. Of course, now the most recent movies are live action with CG turtles or whatever, which I guess kind of works, and it might be the second best thing to the early 90s live action Turtles movies with the guys in the costumes and stuff. But I just feel like they pulled off the costumes so well, and I remember being so impressed when I saw this movie in the theater. I was just like, oh my gosh. But before I get into the costumes, I just want to do a little thing about how I feel. One of the reasons I feel like there's never going to be a better Turtle movie than this is I think the writing is just, the story structure is just so freaking just solid. Like, I love how the movie begins with establishing the Foot Clan and the rising crime rate and stuff like that, and the Foot Clan and basically the teenagers and or the Foot Clan doing all these all these robberies of truck shipments and all this and that, and even just people's TVs and just people's purses, or just all this robbery and all this crime escalating. in the city, and the rumors of the Foot Clan, and how cool it is to begin the movie with, basically getting the viewer, starting the movie kind of like Citizen Kane. You can really compare Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, to Citizen Kane in the aspect they both start with a news report, more or less, of getting the viewer up on, setting the viewer up on what's going on and stuff. But I just love how it begins with setting up the crime rate, the rising crime rate, and the Foot Clan, the rumors of the Foot Clan, and how perfect is it to have this this news report being done, of course, by April O'Neil, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like right off the bat, this movie is just really, really well conceived, and I think it's really amazingly executed. One of my complaints, before I forget, while I'm on the topic of April O'Neil, is I'm not too sure the woman they got to play April O'Neil was. I never really never really liked. I have nothing against the woman, but I felt like that for me, that casting, I never really agreed with that casting of April O'Neil personally. But I love how the movie sets that up, and all the the rumors of the Foot Clan and all this and that, and the rising crime rate and stuff, and then only to have April O'Neil be mugged herself the same night she's after doing that broadcast and stuff, and having the turtles save her. And it was so awesome to have the tease scene in the darkness, and you see the Psy hit the light and break it, and it's like you hear even 30 years later, these sound effects. I remember in 1990, those sound effects when it goes all dark and you just hear the turtles kicking the thieves' asses, and all this just ninja stuff, and all the. I was just like, oh my God, the sound design 30 years later holds up so well, and as a matter of fact, it's like almost better than stuff you've heard since. Just like all of the just the just the vocal sounds, and just the sounds of the whipping weapons, and impacts on the bodies of the robbers and stuff. It's just like, oh my God, and then only to be illuminated by the police cars or whatever, and that the guys are tied up, and she's she finds of course Raphael had to throw his Psy to break the light, and of course it just landed on the ground, and he probably meant to get it. He probably forgot it in the darkness, or couldn't see it, or whatever. And one of the plot points early on in the movie is April O'Neil, of course, picking up Raphael's Psy, and him seeing that from the underneath the manhole cover, and being like, damn. But I remember first when the turtles were first revealed, and what becomes kind of I guess it's not an opening credit sequence so much as just the title sequence or whatever. And it's just like, oh my God, all my hesitation regarding a live action turtle movie and guys in costumes with animatronic turtle heads was just completely just thrown out the window, and I was like, they made this work. And it's just like, I was just, as a 13-year-old, just like, like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It just works. I didn't think, when I heard about a live action turtle movie with guys in costumes, I was like, what? Is this going to be so dumb? But it works. So the basic plot, scenario of this movie is, I guess, basically the turtles kicking those, those thieves or muggers' asses at the beginning of the movie in the darkness was, I think, from what they say in dialogue, their very first time they actually used their ninja skills out in public or whatever and stuff, which was really cool. So this is one of those movies that comic book movies that starts at the beginning versus starting in the middle of the thing and having a flashback to show how things started or whatever. And I tend to like the ones, I guess, it doesn't really matter if it's Batman 89. See, that's the difference between this movie and Batman 89, where Batman 89 is starting well into, Batman's, Cape Crusading, career, if you will, with a flashback of how things began or whatever, versus this movie, and like Rocketeer would do a year later, which is kind of like starting at the beginning. Not the beginning. I guess if you started at the beginning, it'd be with the ooze and the turtles in it and all this stuff, but the beginning of, the modern times, adventures of the characters or whatever. I guess in a way, Rocketeer starts a little further back to explain the, everything leading up to the, the situation or whatever. But I just felt, ever since I saw this and now rewatching it again, that the way this movie is written and presented is just such a fantastic way of having that happen, and the connection instantly that that Raphael has to April, because she like took his sigh and his feeling like, I want to get that back. And another thing not completely crazy about is the guy who voices Raphael in this movie, but I don't know, I guess it kind of, at first when you hear it, it's kind of, I'm not too keen on it, but I guess as the movie wears on, it kind of grows on you. But you know, what they got right. One thing, you know, of course, 1990. I think after I saw this movie, I got all into the Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird books, and I don't think in like the comic or the cartoon show on TV, I don't think Raphael was necessarily a loner or whatever. So one thing that I think, I haven't read the comics in probably 30 years, so I don't know, but having watched the movie again, I'm pretty sure that that's one of the things that the movie actually does to pay tribute to the actual original Kevin Eastman Peter Laird books, is that I think that Raphael was a little more of the loner character and maybe the odd man out of the four in the original books. I don't think so in the cartoon show necessarily. I haven't read the comics or seen the cartoon show in the longest time, but having watched the movie again, as I said, I think that's one thing that they got right from the original books, which is cool. I kind of liked that aspect in the movie of having, you know, Raphael be a little more of a loner, and it really plays into him losing the sigh and him going out and not necessarily looking for it, but and then he comes in, you know, just going out to see a movie, Critters. Of course, it's a New Line Cinema movie, just like the Turtles movie, so they can use that title in the poster in the movie. He's just like, doesn't really like the movie Critters, I guess. You'd think he would, being a critter himself. And then what's really cool about this movie also, of course, is after Raphael is out and about in you know, a long jacket and a hat. It's kind of ridiculous that he could get away with being in incognito or getting away with being out in the world just wearing a long trench coat and a hat, you know, just a hat or whatever, but it's a movie. And what's really cool about after he gets out of the movie is he has a run-in with Casey Jones, and the guy, you know, I really think that the guy that he got to play Casey Jones was perfect, and the hockey mask thing was just perfect, like right out of the comic book, and just setting everything up. I mean, they have such a limited time to set everything up. April O'Neil, the Turtles, and of course the amazing relationship with Splinter that is revealed when they come back at the beginning of the movie from kicking ass, and they get a little bit of a lesson about, you know, from Splinter about the ass kicking and all this stuff. And I gotta say that the Turtles are great, but I mean, I don't think Splinter could be, you know, an animatronic puppeted version of Splinter could be any better than it is in this movie. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing, even 30 years later, and it really shows how really movies have gone downhill. I mean, young people and 20-somethings and teenagers and stuff who've only known about computer-generated effects would probably disagree, but I mean, I really like to think if you showed a younger person this movie with them never having seen it, that they would go, oh wow, you know, that Splinter actually being a physical animatronic puppeted, you know, thing on set. I mean, God, that looks so good, and that's just so much better than a computer-generated Splinter or a computer-generated Turtles. The Splinter in this movie, puppeted and animatronic and everything like that, is just so freaking awesome. And the writing, you know, the character of Splinter is just so perfectly done. The character of the Turtles, I mean, everything is just so perfectly done. As I said, I'm not so keen on April. I think her character, I guess more the casting, not necessarily the character, but I'm not huge, as I said, on the casting. I love the casting of Casey Jones and his appearance and his usage in the movie. And then of course you've got Strife with April, a little bit of drama with Strife and with her boss at her news anchor job, because he's getting, or I think her boss is getting flack from the police chief or whatever about, she doesn't want, or the police doesn't want her on the air talking bad about them, of course. So her boss is getting pressure from the police to stop with the Foot broadcasts and stuff, and I think that gets her in trouble with the Foot Clan themselves. And one thing that's really cool about this movie, and funny, interesting, coming out the same year as RoboCop 2, is you have this very similar things in this movie where you've got this stronghold, like the Foot Clan stronghold in this movie. They recruit like kids, teenagers, young kids and stuff to do a lot of their crime, and they kind of make a place more or less, you know, a home or a quote-unquote family for these kids and stuff, to have them be, you know, loyal to the Foot Clan and stuff. And when the kids get older, they're, you know, they're turned into the Foot Clan ninja soldiers and teached in the arts of, you know, ninjutsu and all this stuff by, you know, people who know, you know, this one guy who is, you know, proficient in it at the place, who works under Shredder. And of course Shredder is the main head honcho, of course, of, you know, the Foot Clan and all this crime ring and stuff. But it's just so interesting watching it again, that it's just like RoboCop, you know, 2, where there's this place where they just kind of have, like I don't remember in RoboCop 2 where that place was, if it was just a random place or whatever, but I remember young kids and teenagers and stuff hanging out playing video games, and the lighting and the kind of the colors and stuff were very similar. You could almost just cut those two scenes together and it'd be just like seamless. But just seeing all these young kids and stuff, you know, smoking cigars and cigarettes, and just all these criminals and delinquents and stuff, who runaways or whatever, who've been, you know, taken under the Foot Clan's wing and recruited into crime to serve them, and then they turn into foot soldiers and stuff. So I mean, the movie covers so many, that's what I mean, it's like so good at covering a lot of information in a short period of time. And of course, I mean, the way Shredder is presented in the movie, I guess I don't know if he's really utilized as much as he could be, but I mean, I guess he's utilized in an okay way, where he's just really kept on the down low until the very end. But I love how that one scene, is it how he's introduced, I think, maybe, with that really high shot in his shadow, and the music is great, and it's just this crane shot that goes all the way down as he's walking out and goes down around him, and that one guy, you know, who trains all the foot soldiers and stuff, like unsheathes his cape over his little spikes on his shoulders, and the camera movement and the music and stuff and the lighting in that shot is just like, oh my god, it is just so, I don't generally use this word because it's just so overused, but it's epic. I mean, that shot was just so cool, and that scene where, I think that's the first scene where we really see Shredder, and he gives a, you know, he has all the kids and delinquents gather around so he can do a pep talk, if you will, and kind of, you know, maybe he does this every week or something to kind of keep the kids in order, keep them in their place or whatever. But what I was trying to say earlier is that April's boss, as a little side note, has this teenage kid who's basically one of these delinquents, who unknowingly to him and April, of course, unknowingly to his dad and April, is, you know, basically a member of, you know, he's not a foot soldier, but he's one of these younger teenagers that's, you know, stealing things and you know, hanging out and doing crime stuff for the Foot Clan and stuff. So this movie just has so much information to you know, to unveil on the audience and stuff. I think it does it really well, and really, you know, concisely, and just really well, in a way that's not boring. It's a lot of the information is just revealed visually, which is what I appreciate more than just having some, you know, people standing around talking about it and getting information through, you know, expositional dialogue. To me is just boring. So, trying my very best not to do a beat by beat, I will just simply say that, of course, the Turtles and April end up coming together. I think they save her or something like that. And of course, you know, Casey Jones ends up coming into the picture, and there's this, you know, sexual tension, and, you know, between Casey Jones and April as the thing goes on, and Splinter ends up being kidnapped. And they have, I don't remember exactly how they rescue her. Oh, I think, I think Raphael rescues, Raphael rescues her in the subway, because the Foot Clan went there to silence her, because they're, you know, on TV there she's giving up way too much information about the Foot Clan, and they don't like it. So Raphael in the subway saves her and brings her back, and, you know, all the Turtles are just like, ooh, they got the hots for her, and Splinter's like, oh, not too keen on it or whatever. But so the introduction to, you know, and at some point Casey Jones comes into Casey Jones saves them at her apartment or whatever, and while they're at her apartment over the night, I don't know why they're there over the night, but you know, that night, you know, Foot Clan soldier ends up finding out where the Turtles live in the sewer, and they end up, Foot Clan ends up, you know, taking Shredder away, or not Shredder, but Splinter rather, and kidnapping him. And I gotta tell you, those scenes where there's some scenes between that, you know, the son of the news anchor, April O'Neil's boss, you know, kid, and Splinter chained up against that fence. And like I say, the Splinter, I always want to call Splinter Shredder. the Splinter stuff in this movie, especially when he's chained up to the fence, is just like, oh my God, the puppetry and the whole Splinter puppet and stuff couldn't be any better and stuff. And I think Splinter ends up talking with that delinquent son of April's boss a couple times, and ends up like turning him from bad into good. And over the course of the movie, of course, the bad kid, who's the son of April's boss, ends up going from bad to good, of course, which is a cool little character arc for that guy. And geez, as I'm doing this review, I'm just reminded how much is going on in this movie. And then during the big siege with the Foot Clan and the Turtles on April O'Neil's apartment, there's this Casey Jones hears that she's fired from her boss, and that's a little bit of drama too. And what I really love about this movie is after April O'Neil's place is burned down in the Foot Clan siege against all four of the Turtles and her, and Casey Jones comes in to save them and stuff like that. They go out to the country where I guess April has this old family farmhouse or whatever. And I just love that segment of the movie, and for my money it could be a little longer, where they're out in the country and there's shots of Turtles like training and doing ninja stuff and out in the country and among the trees and stuff like that. And you know me, if you've been following this channel for a long time, then I'm just a huge country guy, not in the sense of country music, but in the sense of just being out in country and nature and stuff like that. And I was really impressed when I saw it 30 years ago, that they even did that. Usually a movie like this that takes place in the grimy city, most oftentimes just spends the whole movie in the grimy city, of course. And but I was really impressed, and every time I watch it, it's just like, I really like that period of the movie that takes place out at April's farm. And basically, Raphael gets beat up and really hurt. He's in like a coma for a few days, and this is the part of the movie where the Turtles kind of get their butt kicked by the Foot Clan and have to regroup. And because before this time there was like strife between Raphael and Leonardo, of course, and stuff like that. So over this time I'm in the country and stuff, it's like the healing, both physically and mentally. And what I love about them healing in the country is, I think I don't know if that was done intentionally and as a subtle aspect, but I really think that's, if you gotta heal, I think that's just the best place to do it. I think it's just the best place to be in general. But I just thought about that, just sitting here talking about it, how appropriate to have a healing scene where Raphael has to recover from being all beat up, and physically healing, and also the psychological, mental healing, and in the strife between Raphael and Leonardo being healed. What better place to have it happen than out in the country, among just Mother Nature itself and all this stuff. And they have this campfire where they see a vision of Splinter in it and stuff, giving a hopeful little speech and stuff like that. This movie is just really blew my ass away when I saw it in the theater 30 years ago, and watching it again, it's just like I'm really glad it holds up for me. A lot of movies over the years and stuff I loved as a kid, and then I'll rewatch and I'll just be like, what the hell what the hell did I see in it? But this movie, it holds up really well. And of course the end is them going to back to the city when they're all all four of them are all healed, and they do their ninja training over the course of, I don't know if it's just several days or whatever, but when they're all healed and they're all four as back together as a good group or whatever, they're like, inform April and Casey Jones, it's time to go back. And of course they go back and rescue Splinter. Try not to say Shredder. They rescue Splinter and confront the Foot Clan and stuff like that. And one thing that is really surprising, and I guess it was a problem supposedly among parents, but supposedly problem parents had with the ninjas, and I guess I can understand it, because this movie it walks a fine line between like goo goo gaga baby crap, and it's more or less, and that's one thing I was really impressed about it, is it's more or less a movie not for necessarily kids. I felt like I was at exactly the right age Like it doesn't play like something that's for like babies and really little kids, you know. It really plays, it has themes and stuff that are a little more mature and stuff. And what I was getting at is the parents supposedly weren't keen on the fact that how much weapons were actually used. And towards the end of the movie, there's actually a really big part. I don't know if they use any more weapons more explicitly, but where, you know, well, all kinds of havoc's going on, and Leonardo actually like slices, you know, there's no blood of course or anything like that, but it was a pretty gnarly sound effect, slices a foot soldier's like legs, and the guy goes falling down and stuff. But I remember thinking like, wow, you know, I'm surprised they actually had him use his sword. That might have been the only time where there was like any impact from like his swords on an actual character or whatever. Most of the time, I mean, the weapons weren't really even used necessarily all that much. That's the only time I think. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the only time when the blade, you know, hits a bad guy or whatever. But that's the only time I can remember Blade actually making contact with a bad guy. But obviously for the sequel, I mean, they're frickin' barely not even using their, well, pretty much not even using their weapons anymore. It's just using frickin', you know, sausages for nunchucks and all this kind of stuff. But come to think of it, whatever his name is, Michelangelo does clunk quite a few people in the head and all this and that, you know, put soldiers with nunchucks in this movie. So, wrapping the review up, obviously all's well ends well. They go into the Foot Clan's, you know, whatever, home and stronghold, and rescue Splinter and defeat Shredder, of course. And what's really cool is sometime in the movie there's this flashback that Splinter's probably telling the son of April's boss about this, where, you know, his history with his old former master and watching his master do kung fu kicks, and then you see shots of the rat in the cage doing kung fu kicks, and it's just so freaking awesome. And just, for lack of a better word, it's cute, you know, seeing that little puppeted rat doing ninja kicks and punches and stuff. It's just like, oh my god. And I remember that garnered quite a few laughs from people in the audience. You know, same thing with the flashback of the turtles, you know, finding the ooze and growing up, and, you know, saying pizza, 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 and all this kind of stuff. That looks like those flashback scenes were like filmed in 16mm or Super 8mm or something like that, because they're all grainy, which is something I don't have a problem with because, you know, I'm a grain guy. But obviously, I guess the way they used Shredder was probably for the best in this movie, because then it makes, you know, you can't have him be in fights and stuff like that as the movie progresses, because then it would take away from the impact of him actually fighting at the end of the movie for the grand showdown between the four turtles, of course. And of course, you know, initially I think he kicks like individually all four turtles' butts or whatever, and he's ready to basically just kill them, and then I think Splinter saves the day. And it's funny how, you know, I don't think I thought anything about it at the time, because I thought maybe it'd just be this one movie or whatever, like an idiot. I thought that when I saw it in the theater. But it's funny how they kind of kill, you know, for all intents and purposes, they kill Shredder. You know, he falls in a garbage truck, and Casey Jones, you know, turns it on and basically saying he's just going to be smashed to pieces in the garbage truck or whatever. But, you know, I don't know. I can only assume that their intention was to do more movies. I don't know why they put such a, you know, like a final I don't know, they made it really look like Splinter was gone, or Shredder was gone at the end of this movie. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved this movie. I still contend that there'll probably never be a better Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie ever again. And seeing it 30 years later, I mean, it really, really, really holds up. I'm going to go as high as 3.5 stars out of 4 stars for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. I mean, it was just so amazing to me, and still watching it now, I couldn't believe it when I first saw it, how well the costumes looked and how agile the performers in the costumes were able to be wearing that stuff. Granted, when they're doing all their ninja stuff, they probably just have a dummy head on and not the animatronic thing or whatever. But still, even with all that stuff on and that thing on their head, I mean, the flips and the ninja, stuff they were able to do, and all the action, physical stuff. I mean, I can still remember seeing it in the theater, how, blown away I was by, oh my God, this worked. Guys in Ninja Turtle suits just worked, and the costumes were just awesome, and they just were so flexible to be able to do what, the performers inside need to be able to do. I mean, just an all-around freaking great, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. What can I tell you? And I'm probably a little biased and stuff like that, but I think for good reason. I think it's quite the hell of the the achievement, this movie. So I guess that'll pretty much do it for my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next movie review.